Recording in progress.
Can you hear me now?
Testing.
Yep. Volume issues.
Are we up and running?
Try us one more time, Mandy.
Sure,
Testing,
can you hear me?
testing.
We cannot hear her.
I hear.
No, it's
I think we can hear each other, Charles, but the boardroom can't hear us.
Jackie. Will
Yeah.
you try it? Make sure it's not Mandy's line.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
It will be held at the Marysville Veteran Hall on 17th Street. RSVP by March 12th. Maybe I won't.
Nice try.
You had me all excited there, sir.
Let's try it one more time, Mandy.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. That was
Great.
excellent. Nice job.
Recording in progress.
We'll go. There we go.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Yuba Water Agency Board of Directors meeting on Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 at 9 a.m. So first we'll start with roll call, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Let's start with Director Vasquez.
Here.
Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Blazer.
Yeah.
Director Bradford.
Here.
Director Fuhrer.
I also here.
Director Fletcher.
Here.
Director Hastey.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Director Vasquez, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. And salute. Pledge. I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up is public comment.
All right, public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of a video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times, except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. Mr. Chair will take public comment in the room first, please.
Great, thank you. I have 3 cards from folks in the room. We'll start with Mr. Stefanini. You can just come up to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you to give me the opportunity to talk to you. Thanks. So I have a small company in Oregon House, Apollo Olive Oil. I hope that you know our company. And we are not a large company, but we have 20 years of history, and we are, relatively speaking, successful. What is being happening to us in the last few years is something that I would like to make you aware of. We manage about 2,500 trees directly, olive trees. We farm them. And we buy also in Oregon House from other people that have olive trees, small growers, about 1,500 trees, and another 500 in Loma Rica. So the change in weather that has been happening in the last few years, practically speaking, make winter not existing anymore. It is about 2 or 3 weeks long. Fall also is very short. And we have seen a summer very, very long. In the past, we were watering from the end of April, beginning of May until September. Now we are watering from now, the middle of March, until probably middle of November this year. And this is becoming a real problem because we get water from the ground. And soon there will be a little competition probably between watering the trees or drinking the water. This is something that is becoming real. Also, we have a couple of growers that have stopped to water the orchards because their well went dry last year. And so it is something that is becoming more and more of a problem because we are not expecting that the weather will improve much in the next few years. Maybe it will go worse, maybe, or will stay how it is. So no winter and very long summer. So water for us, it wasn't a concern, I have to be honest. In the last 2 or 3 years, it's becoming a major concern. Even if we want to pay for water, we don't know if there will be water. So, thank you.
Thank you. By the way, your oil is excellent. Keep it up.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Sharp. You can never go first, but she can't take your time. So, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Enrique?
Hello, dear Yuba Water Agency. I want to thank Gary Bradford. He came to our village Friday, and he looked around. We gave him tour of vineyards, olive oil, the little cafe, and it was a very nice day. Back to the water crisis. A week ago, North Yuba introduced and approved a new irrigation policy in a special meeting. Very rushed, very strange process. We'll see them in court. I'm sorry, rinse and repeat. There are some changes of concern in the new policy that affect specifically farmers. Allocations of available water are now solely the general manager's decision. Small water users are approved before large water users. This effectively targets farmers and ranchers and makes planning for the future impossible. Specifically, it makes starting new farms impossible because one doesn't know when one starts a new enterprise, whether it is going to be there next year, the year after. Because if the water allocation gets smaller and smaller on the authority of just one person, this whole plan of expanding and inviting ranchers, inviting farmers, it's just not going to work. Unlined ponds are now deemed a waste of water, blanket. And the reason for denying service is the opinion of the manager that one is wasting water. Now, about wasting water, makes sense in the time of drought to not waste water. You guys have an excellent program of allowing people to understand what water waste is and trying to conserve every drop when brushing your teeth. But North Yuba, I think, is not doing its job there. We went yesterday up with Robert Suma from the Uphill Democrat. There's a storage tank in Challenge. It's 80 years old. It's wood. It leaks continuously. In my letter, I gave you a link of a little video. It's supposed to break your heart. It broke my heart. There is a little river coming from that tank, going down, and it ends at the bottom of the dirt road into LaPorte Road. There's a whole little swamp. There are rushes that are well established. This is water that's treated. The customers, the domestic customers pay for it. The taxpayers pay for it. And it is just leaking. It has been leaking since 1996. In 2007, the board made plans to change it. I'm almost out of time. I'll get there. And nothing has been done. In 2012, money was arranged to replace it. And the general manager that was just new on the job quit the program. So it's not been changed. It's 10 years ago. South Feather has 1/10 of the leaks.
Wrap up, please.
Yes, South Feather has 1/10 of the leaks that North Yuba has. We're just concerned that the job is not just not done for irrigation customers, but for domestic customers as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles, would you like to speak? Okay.
Good morning, Charles Sharp, Oregon House. I hope everyone is doing well today. Gentlemen, when you wear your water agency hat, your first allegiance is to the agency. You're in the business of water, power generation, and a bit of forest management. The agency was created first and foremost to keep Marysville from flooding and to provide water for the people of Yuba County. Your general manager knows best how to accomplish this. Unlike county government, which, if it doesn't do such a good job, it only costs the taxpayers money, Yuba Water has to get it right the first time. I would urge you to take your directorship to heart. For what it's worth, since August of 2017, I have notes for over 40 public comments at your board meetings. As to my wayward water district, like a chapter or two from the Director Hastey's favorite book, The Dreamt Land, this has always been about the water rights the district has. At times, I have sensed this resolve or strong desire for these rights coming through from the district. And I've felt that, but I don't feel that so much anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't see any public comments online, and we don't have any more in the room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Then we will move on to consider finding by a majority vote under Government Code 54953E3 that a result of the continuing COVID-19 emergency that the board has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency, and the board reviews prior finding that meeting fully in person would continue to present imminent risk to the health and safety of attendees, and the authorization for meetings to be held by teleconference pursuant to Government Code 54953E1 is renewed. So is there any discussion or public comment on this item? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Let's start with Director Hastey.
No.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Bradford.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I think I got everybody. Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda items. So is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, any board comment or questions? Then,
Move to approve.
okay.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Start with Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Director Bradford.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Director Hastey.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we are going to move on to discussion items. And I think item 3, the presenter's not here yet. Is that correct? Oh, yes. Okay.
He's not here yet.
Okay.
No.
So we're going to move on to item 4 for now. Review of the Energy Risk Management Annual Report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. And Maury's going to take that. Good morning.
Thank you, Board, Willie, for the opportunity to provide a brief review of the Energy Risk Committee's 2021 annual report. My name is Maury Miller. I was the operations manager. With Mary Gable's retirement, I moved over to work in the settlements office. One of the tasks assigned to the settlements office is to lead our Energy Risk Management Group, also known as the ERM Committee. The ERM Committee has members from across the agency, and we utilize a couple of outside consultants. The 2021 annual report has already been provided to you. It should be in your packet. My goal here is to submit the report to you and hit a few of the highlights for 2021. If you should have any questions either now or in the future, please let me know. In the report, you'll find that total revenue for 2021 was $77.4 million. In the report, you'll also see a brief description of the structure of the ERM committee. Included in the report is the value of capacity contracts that were sold for 2021. Specifically, we sold $24 million of resource adequacy, otherwise known as RA. Additionally, we sold $1.3 million in carbon-free energy for 2021. The ERM committee in every meeting discusses and reviews energy forecasts. We look at the CAISO market. We look at the weather, hydrology. We look at the maintenance windows, and try to maximize the value from our YRDP assets. Under the operational performance risk section, you can see that the 2021 YRDP forced outage factor is relatively high when compared to the 2019 NERC large hydro outage factor of 4%. As an explanation, CAISO changed the rules, and while we had Narrows 2 shut down in a reserve status, they over a period of days kept assigning megawatts to the Narrows 2 unit, and it put us in the position of having to force Narrows 2 off. So this prevented CAISO from assigning megawatts to the unit, but it correspondingly changed our availability factor from a reserve standby to forced. So as a result of the CAISO's actions, we've decided internally to create our own reporting structure to better reflect the YRDP unit availability. So it's not tied to the CAISO system. There's a lot going on in the regulatory world, and we have an internal and external staff that are actively monitoring and reviewing, and when needed, advocating for our interests and reporting back to the ERM committee. Under items of note, this was the year that we had the rolling California blackouts. As you can see in the notes there, the ERM annual report, CAISO had controlled load sheds affecting almost 500,000 customers. CAISO, Yuba received calls from the CAISO, specifically requesting that we provide any additional support possible. And as a result of that call, we did ramp up flows for 2 weeks, and we're able to provide an additional megawatts to the grid to assist with their megawatt shortage. Again, that's just the highlights, and I want to thank you for your time and attention. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, contact me.
Thank you, Maury. Any questions from the board?
Through the chair, I just want to congratulate you on the work, Maury. And I couldn't imagine in 2016 that RA payments would be almost half. I mean, it would be that high. It's just stunning. And it's the work that you guys do on a daily basis that keep us really in the forefront and paying for almost half the budget with just RA. And so kudos to a fantastic job. Thank you.
Through the chair. Again, Maury, great job. You know, your dedication, your focus on all of this, staying on top of it, it adds a great deal to the depth of the agency. So to add to Brent, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Maury. Okay, next we're going to move on to item 5, consider approval of co-sponsorship of Assembly Bill 2078, Atmospheric Rivers Research, Mitigation, and Climate Forecasting Program. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. That's a mouthful. Chair Bradford, directors, good morning. Adam Robin, Government Relations Manager. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning to talk a little bit about an opportunity for the agency, which is co-sponsorship of Assembly Bill 2078. This is it's proposed state legislation that would refine the state's existing atmospheric river research program, which is housed within the Department of Water Resources. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to provide you with some background on the legislation and describe some potential benefits for the agency of co-sponsorship. So first, by way of background, the Department of Water Resources Atmospheric River Research Program was founded by legislation that was signed by Governor Brown back in 2015. That was a time when really this effort was just taking off. You had water agencies, the state, and Scripps Institute of Oceanography just beginning a set of coordinated, interrelated efforts to better understand this phenomenon of atmospheric rivers and really look toward the future of how we might be able to operationalize insights gained from that type of research. So the establishment of that program, together with significantly state budget funding allocations made in the succession of following years, has really helped to advance the state of that research. Today, state water agencies around the state, including Yuba Water Agency, are really starting to apply that research to our water management practices. It enhances water supply availability, it enhances our ability to reduce flood risks in our community, and as we look forward, it's really foundational to so much of what we're trying to do around the state with respect to water management. As you all know, at the staff level, our Manager of Resource Planning, John James, is really key to making that effort go here at Yuba Water Agency. He also plays a key leadership role in many of Scripps' research efforts. So Yuba Water Agency's ongoing efforts with Scripps include coordination on what I'll call the technical stuff, which is understanding and better refining our approaches to forecast-informed reservoir operations, figuring out how we actually make that happen here as an agency. But it also involves coordination at the policy level in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. As I said previously, we've had some success securing state budget funding to advance the research that Scripps is doing that we're using day to day. We're also contributing to that effort. So the co-sponsorship proposal before you today is really an extension and an outgrowth of all of that work. So turning specifically to the bill, AB 2078 is a pretty modest bill. It basically refines the existing language establishing the atmospheric river research program within DWR to include applications of that research. So using better forecasts, using forecast-informed reservoir operations, really expanding out from just research to actually applying that research, which is what water agencies are increasingly looking to do. The bill specifically calls out forecast-informed reservoir operations, which in dry years and wet years is increasingly getting a lot of attention as something the state needs to be doing more of. So co-sponsorship of a bill goes beyond, a typical support position on the bill. It's where we work closely with the author's office to actually help advance the bill through the legislature. The benefit to the agency is that it'll provide us with an opportunity to really highlight Yuba Water Agency as on the cutting edge of this type of work statewide. It'll also support this policy bill, AB 2078, will support the coalition's efforts to secure additional funding for these purposes in this year's state budget. It's a complementary policy piece to a separate effort that's where we're working to secure budget resources. So that's the proposal in brief. I'll just note briefly on the politics of this measure. The bill is authored by Assemblyman Heath Flora. He's a Republican who represents portions of Stanislaus and San Joaquin counties. Turlock Irrigation District is the other co-sponsor of the bill. Scripps Institute of Oceanography, for various reasons, can't be in a sponsorship position, but they're really helping to coordinate the coalition and are leading support for the bill. A statewide coalition, including other water agencies, the Association of California Water Agencies and others, are already in strong support of the bill. We had a very positive meeting with relevant policy committee staff, the Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife Committee last week surrounding the bill. They're supportive. We really see strong support for atmospheric river research and related efforts like FIRO in the legislature right now. So it's great that we're able to continue to lead this effort statewide. As I said earlier, there's a lot of work that's happening related to atmospheric river research. This is a relatively modest bill in terms of scope and effect. Like I said, it basically modifies the existing program language. But it's nonetheless important. It's important because it reflects and really builds on the good work and partnerships that we've developed around these issues. It's important because it's part of this broader coalition strategy, like I described, to secure additional state funding for this research in the state budget this year. And it's an important opportunity to highlight Yuba Water Agency's leadership at the state level in terms of figuring out how we can do this stuff and actually applying some of this research. So that's not just something that's on a shelf somewhere, but it's actually programmed into how we manage our system. So with that, the staff recommendation is to approve co-sponsorship of AB 2078. I appreciate any thoughts, directions, or questions you might have. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Okay.
Through the chair, limited thoughts, but what a great program. Great opportunity and communication with the public as to what we do and why we do it. I would also encourage that you might want to send an overview to Congressman LaMalfa to keep him informed of the things that we're doing in Yuba County that are very supportive on a very large scale that's beneficial to a lot of people. So having said that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, have a first and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Let's start with Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Bradford.
Yes.
Director Hastey.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Okay, next, just before we move on to item 6, I just want to confirm item 4 was not an action item. Is that correct? Okay. So item 6, consider approval of updated human resources policies, which were requested as part of the human resources assessment. The policy review committee recommended approval of this matter on March 1st, 2022. So morning, Terry.
So I'm really happy that our presenter isn't here yet because we could do a dramatic reading of all 31 policies. I know you'd really like that.
Boy, I'd love it.
I'm glad I grabbed one of those sleep masks up there.
So currently we have for our employees a human HR policy and procedure manual that was first adopted in 2017. So it's 5 years now. As you know, new laws come in all the time. And so after 5 years, it's time for us to take a look at that. The other thing that happened is in 2020, we had an assessment done of our HR department. Asked our employees, like, hey, what do you want? You know, is this effective? What else would you like? And one of the things that came across loud and clear was, we'd like directions on how to do things. Instead of having to call HR, could you just tell us, like, what form to fill out, what you want us to do? And so what we've done with all of these policies is taken that manual that was kind of a, page 1 to page 40 narrative and broken them out into separate policies. And in each policy, you might have noticed, if you read any of them, that there's a lot of procedure now actually embedded in the policy. So, for example, in the HR manual, it's said, and so there really aren't many changes at all in all of these policies, except to add those procedures and, of course, to reflect any laws. And so we're updating for the laws. But here's an example. In the HR manual, there was a paragraph about how there's $2,500 in tuition reimbursement available to every employee every year, for classes or going back to courses that somehow relate to their work at the agency. Well, we've taken that. This doesn't sound great that we took a paragraph and made it into a 7-page policy, but what we did was actually include the form that people have to fill out. We've also answered a lot of their questions, like, well, when do I get the money? What if I don't pass the class? What if I try to get into the class and I get dropped? All those kinds of questions are now answered in the policy. So there's 3 categories of policy that are there. Did they come in? Or am I still stalling? Still stalling. Okay. There are 3 categories. One are just updates of existing policies. We just took the paragraph and made it into, adding the procedure. The second are additions that are now required by federal or state law. An example of that is a lactation policy. That wasn't in effect when we had the HR manual, and now we have a policy on it. And then the 5 new policies were actually practices that we've had in place. We were just documenting the policy so that it's really clear to everyone. A good example of that is the telework policy. Prior to COVID, there were a few people that opted to work from home, say on Fridays. It was never documented anywhere. There was no policy about it. But now with COVID and how it's really changed how a lot of people work, we have a telework policy. So happy to answer any questions about those new policies. The one last thing I'd like to add is that this was a major undertaking to update all of those policies. And so we want to do, if these policies are approved today, what we'd like to do is just one more pass through to make sure that everything that was in the HR manual is now captured in these new policies. And once we've done that one last check, we will come back and ask you to repeal the HR manual. And the policy committee did review these policies and is recommending approval.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Through the chair. Great layout. I love it. I wish you'd come to my office and work on my policies. One of the concerns I guess I would have is under policies, what I've found personally is this stuff changes constantly. You can't write a policy and it's good forever. You can't write a policy that's good for a year. There is some attorney, sorry, Dick, somewhere that wants to nitpick this thing apart. So I'm assuming that it's all been reviewed and understood and makes good sense. Not that good sense is technically what everybody wants, but I think you've done a great job trying to lay that out. I will tell you, I haven't read every page, but I did read through it on certain things that really make a lot of sense. So I assume we're having full support that shows that we're on track. And then it's looked at to make sure it's legal on a regular basis, or otherwise we're right back to the same problem of the state interfering with doing what they think is best for every company in the state. So
yes, and so 2 points. Thank you for those comments. One is having these separate policies. It actually makes it easier to update just a policy as opposed to the whole manual. And the second point about that is that like all of our policies, we'll be on a regular cycle to review them of 2 years. We'll probably try to stagger these so that we don't keep hitting you with 31 policies every 2 years.
Good plan.
Like Director Fletcher, I think was that a motion?
So moved.
I have a quick question.
Okay, we'll take a second real quick and then we'll take your question.
Second.
Okay. Go ahead. Director
Ready
Blazer.
for the question?
Yep.
Do we use any kind of an outside agency that helps us wade through all this? You know, like some companies subscribe to Paychex and ADP, and that's just what they do about every year. So
Yes, we do. We have several sources. One is ADP. We use ADP. We have an ADP system that does give us regular updates. It's been really helpful during COVID as things have changed. We also have 2 different law firms that specialize in different areas of personnel that review them. And then, of course, Dick's firm, our counsel's firm reviews them before it comes to the board.
yeah, it gets more complicated every 6 months.
Yeah, we also, one of the law firms we use, as long as I'm stalling.
You don't need to stall anymore.
Okay. We use a firm that actually does regular updates and regular training. And so for a subscription for the year, we have unlimited access to them and to all of their trainings and their updates.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Let's start with Director Bradford.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Hastey.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. And Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Great. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Terry.
Good job, Terry.
Okay. Was it frozen or something? Oh, okay. Okay. The audio's okay though?
Audio continues to be okay. You may not see a picture on your Zoom screen. Apologies. I'll keep working on it.
Great. Thank you. We're going to move back to item number 3, presentation of an Association of California Water Agencies Recognition Award to Director Hastey for his leadership and service to Aqua. Morning, Dave.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's so nice to be here with you. I'm Dave Egerton, Executive Director of Aqua. I got to say it's so long overdue to be in these chambers with you guys, because to be honest with you, there's really nothing, I firmly believe that there's really nothing significant that happens in water that's good, at least from the local agency perspective, that's statewide, that doesn't involve you guys. I mean, you absolutely are the premier leader in coming up with solutions that some of the really tough stuff, but the very important work that we have to do statewide. And it's no accident that Brent Hastey has been a member of your board for many years, and we have all benefited from that. And today, I really just want to recognize him for his incredible service to Aqua. It is if you don't know, when you come in to become an officer of Aqua, which of course you have to get elected and go through all of that process, which it makes for a very lively conference when we have elections. But it's a 6-year term, basically tour of duty. You have 2 years as vice president, and then if you're elected to president, which normally happens, another 2 years in that seat, and then 2 years as a past president. So it's a major commitment, and I know you guys. I shouldn't be saying this because you know this, because it's a commitment and a sacrifice you've made to have make Brent available to us, and we so appreciate that. Because I can tell you, I firmly believe that my time working for Brent as president and past president will be the highlight of my career. And it just honestly, he is. He's one of the absolute best leaders in the business, in water and in local government. And I think, as everybody hopefully knows, if you spend 5 minutes with him, he's one of the finest people you'll ever meet. And I got to be honest, that sincerity and the calming presence that he brought to our organization, to our board, to our committees, to the staff, to everything that we do was enormous. And I think we had some of our very best years under his leadership as a result. Just to mention a couple of the really big things that happened early on in his term as vice president, the association with his and others' leadership created an agriculture committee. Kind of odd when you think that the organization is over 100 years old, and it was at one point for many years the Irrigation District Association of California, but we didn't have a committee dedicated to ag, and that was something that was created in his tenure, and that was an enormous benefit for us, particularly to give a forum for production agriculture to be able to come and voice their concerns and make sure that all of their issues were being addressed across all the ways that we do our work. Then as president, Brent did some enormous things. But first and foremost, to me, he hired me, which I don't know if he regrets that at this point, but I have to say that was obviously life-changing for me. I would never have even contemplated applying for the job, but for the support that Brent gave and encouragement. And again, as I said, it's really, I think it's going to be the best years as I go back and look at my career through all my, when ultimately someday when I'm done with this work. Brent also led us in the move in offices. We had if you had visited Aqua's office over the course of the last few decades, you probably visited the K Street office, actually on one of the most distressed blocks of K Street in Sacramento. And he, because of his leadership, we were able to move just a couple of blocks away to a modern facility that provided what we needed as staff to really flourish. And I so appreciate him. We benefit from that every day. And then just to note, on the policy side, I doubt there's probably going to be a bigger achievement in any time in the near future as compared to what we did under his leadership and stopping the water tax and that would have been applied to water utility bills all over the state and created all kinds of problems for agencies. And instead came up with a solution, more importantly, that addressed the underlying needs of the disadvantaged communities for funding solutions for the operations side, in particular for safe drinking water, and did that in a way that provided funding over almost $1.5 billion in funding over a decade worth of money that will be invested in that across the state of California. I mean, incredible lives will be changed because of that. And you know, I just, again, I thank you so much, Brent, for everything you did leading us. You continue to be a big part and obviously a trusted leader and attend our board meetings. And I so thank you for that. And with that, we just have just a small token to recognize your leadership. There.
Thank you, Dave. I'll speak from down here, but this wouldn't have happened without the support of the board. It couldn't have happened. And I just want to say thank you to each of you and the board members prior to you that were here. I couldn't have been a leader on Aqua without the team that we have at Yuba-Water. It makes all the difference in the world. And so I just want to say thank you. Dave, I am confident. I appreciate your kind words, but I pray every day that your best years are ahead of you. I mean, there are leaders out there who are far better than me, and I look forward to seeing them lead. And so again, I just want to say thank you. And it was an opportunity of a lifetime to work with the people of Aqua and the leadership of the state of California as we work through the problems in water in California. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it.
Through the chair, well-deserved presentation, and there's an old saying, if it's true, it ain't bragging. And you're a great leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that.
Brent, just wanted to say thank you for your tremendous leadership at the state level, both at Aqua and just with other state agencies. You're a tremendous asset to this agency from a state perspective, as well as, of course, locally. So greatly appreciated, and I'm glad that you were recognized today for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to manager's report.
Before that, I'd like to also compliment Brent Hastey for all the work he's done.
Thank you, Charlie.
Excellent, Gary. Thank you. Okay, so the agency's doing fairly well. What's the hot topic right now? Well, it's obviously the drought. We're in a significant state of drought in the state. We are faring well. New Bullard's Bar is at 670,000 acre feet. That's 102% of average year to date. And our inflow is 70% of average year to date. Don't let the 102% fool you. That's from snow melt that we've already received. And we are continuing to receive snow melt. It's just how long is that going to last, and are we going to get the snow that we anticipate? More on that in a minute. So Yuba County continues to be in a D2 drought condition. That's been the case for a couple months now. We've only had about 1.5 inches of rain in March, and we're halfway through the month. We're down to 80% normal precipitation year to date. To put this in perspective, we would need 20 or more inches of rain from here till, let's say, May to get to average. So we're going to be below average. The remainder of March is forecasted to be fairly dry. We do have we had this little storm event this morning, and we have a similar storm event forecast for Saturday. These are great. These are dust settling storms. These are not, positively impactful storms for the system, but we're not going to complain. They're decent. On the operations and maintenance front, we continue with routine maintenance throughout the watershed. We did complete the Cottage Creek boat ramp repairs. And PG&E does have an outage on the Narrows 1 and 2 transmission line. So we do have the Narrows 1 and 2 units shut down to accommodate PG&E's work. Tomorrow, so we just executed an agreement to do the aerial snow observations. Our first flight in the Yuba watershed will be tomorrow. There was a flight in the Feather watershed, and the results were basically, they found that they would get about half of the normally forecasted inflows from their snow surveys. So we have this 100-year record of snow surveys, and we've talked about, well, that's great. We're measuring the snow where the most of the snow falls, but what is the extent of the snowpack? And we're learning that the changing conditions show that the extent of the snowpack impacts the amount of inflow we get as much as the actual snowpack at the observation station. So we're going to fly our watershed tomorrow. We'll get those results and potentially adjust what we anticipate in getting from inflow. This is, in addition to the soil sensors that were put out in the watersheds, this is another tool we'll use going forward to better forecast our inflows based on snowpack. So that's a great program. Thank you for your support of that program. We are contributing financially to that, but it's valuable data for forecasting our inflows. Water transfer. So we have the proposed water transfer with Contra Costa Water District and East Bay Municipal Utilities District.
Part of that process is to add the Contra Costa's diversions in the Delta as point of diversions to our water rights. We submitted that petition to the state board a few weeks ago. As part of the process, the Bureau of Reclamation filed a protest challenging that petition. The process requires us to meet with the Bureau and explain what we have going on. And we did that last week. We met with the Bureau, explained the UBO Accord, we explained the baseline of the Accord, and we explained the purpose of adding the Contra Costa diversions. As a result of that meeting and those discussions, the Bureau withdrew their protest. So we anticipate that the state board will approve the point of diversion addition to our water rights and that the transfer will go through as planned. As a little speed bump in the road, I think we could have explained that a little better in the beginning of the process. We were a little bit surprised by it because the Accord is such a long-standing water transfer, but new people. The relationship is strong now, and I think going through that process and having those discussions actually gave all of us a better understanding of this water transfer and potentially future water transfers. Okay, human resources update. So we continue to hire a handful of positions. I think there's 5 or 6 positions currently out on the street. We're currently interviewing for our operations manager, and we have an accepted offer for our HR manager. And we've selected a candidate for our temporary admin position, and we'll hope she will start in the next couple of weeks. And we're working on filling a utility position at Colgate. The internship program. So we're going to do the internship program again this year. We met last week to discuss this year's internship program. I don't have here in my notes how many we're going to potentially hire, but staff wants to hire 7 or 8 interns this summer. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, sounds good. It's a great opportunity for these interns. And I will point out that we have ended up hiring a couple interns full-time as a result of the internship. So not only is it good for these students to gain experience, but we potentially can find future employees through this program. So I fully support it, and just want to let you know we're going to do it again this year in a significant way. Okay, communications and community relations. Since our last meeting, we were featured in the Appeal Democrat for our tree removal work at Lake Francis and the Making Lemonade Out of Lemons story, that the dead trees are being used to help fish habitat projects in the lower Yuba River. We were also featured for our performance in the lip sync battle, where we once again took home the trophy for stage presence, and for our sponsorship of the Day for Women event at the Hard Rock. And upcoming sponsorships include the Farm Bureau's Spring Fling this weekend. April 5th is our next regular directors board meeting, and we will also have a special meeting with Mitch Rosenberg, and he'll go over core values and a SWOT analysis. And then on April 19th, we have the ABP committee meeting, which would normally be on the 5th, but we're putting off to the 19th because of the special workshop with Mitch. And as a result of the governor's executive order on February 28th, we plan to convene standing committee meetings in person at our F Street facility conference room beginning next month. That's all I have.
Through the chair, could you go back on Schedule 2 that has major more fish releases in a dry year and what we can do to offset that?
So based on the March B120 forecast, that's what sets our Accord flow schedule. We were coming into March, we were in a Schedule 2 year, and as of the March B120, that shifted to a Schedule 3 year. So our current minimum in-stream flows are 700 CFS at the Smartsville gauge, and we're putting out 700 plus a buffer, somewhere around 725 or 730.
No, the point being that this is a drought year, and our scheduling showing it's a much wetter year than what's actual happening.
Yes, so we are working, so that is accurate. Based on what we think we're going to receive for snowmelt runoff into the reservoir, we would anticipate that it would be worse hydrologic conditions than a Schedule 3 and potentially a Schedule 4 or 5. We continue to work with DWR and others on improving their forecasts in the B120. John James leads that effort for us, along with Steve Brunel, our consultant. They are making changes. I spoke about the DWR snow observations, and they did not anticipate making changes based on those observations that happened just last week. However, because they were so drastic, they did end up making changes and will continue to make improvements on the B120. There's a lot of work to be done. That's a historical process that they go through that takes a lot to improve, but they are open to improvements, and we're seeing improvements being made. So we'll continue to work on that. And Director Matthews is right. We need to get that right. Weather patterns have changed, and the data collection that we have, we're inputting potentially new streams of data like soil moisture and the extent of the snowpack. And we're right there in the middle of this. The legislation that Adam spoke about, atmospheric river work, all of that is going to feed into these improvements, but they don't happen overnight, but we are seeing positive improvements.
Any additional questions from the board?
Through the chair. Quick question on the interns. Are they paid, or is it a stipend program is how you set that up?
They are paid. They are paid an hourly rate.
Great.
And we actually, one of the requirements for a department to have an intern is that there's meaningful work for us and for the intern that needs to be.
That's great. I have an additional name for you if you'd like. So before we leave today, I'll get that to you.
Bet. Thank you.
And a bit of clarity on the spring fling. It's not this weekend, it's this Friday night. And for those that would like to come to the spring fling through the Farm Bureau, please show up. Buy a ticket at the door, I think, but otherwise it's worthwhile.
For fun and the defense of our comms manager, this Friday is this weekend, but Friday is more active.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to director's reports. Director Matthews. I think you're muted, Charlie.
Comment that the schedule 4 and 5 year, which we're probably even drier in, we only have a 500 CFS at Marysville rather than 700. And in a month's time, that 200 CFS is a substantial amount of water that other people could use. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Vasquez? Director Blazer?
I was just going to mention that Monday, I think we're still scheduled to start shocking Ellis Lake and removing carp. That'll be about a 3-day process. And I think before the end of the month, we're going to apply the phosphlock. So that's all part of the first stages. Cool. So there's a chance for some free fish next week.
Director Fear Nothing?
Fish fertilizer.
Director Hastey?
I think there was enough said today. I do want to also say I was on the running the Drought Task Force Committee this morning for Aqua, and it is just a brutal year. And I keep telling you this, but just don't forget, it's you're going to probably see regulatory action from the governor that's going to require you to, not water your lawn. We're going to go with that again probably, but you're going to see those kinds of actions because this year is horrible. And you're also, the governor's emergency action just put in another $8 million for advertisement on conservation and work so that we all save water. So just letting you know that that's coming up, but it is the driest year of my lifetime. So definitely worth thinking about. And when people talk to you about them, ask them to conserve water. This is the time to do it, even though we at Yuba are probably better shape or as good a shape as almost anybody in the state. We need to keep working at it.
Thank you. Director Fletcher?
So Don, if you'd show up at Spring Fling and make that announcement about all the carp, I think it'd work well with the farmers this year. If they plant one carp with each tree, they do really well, my understanding. So could be worthwhile. And the other thing was this morning at 7 o'clock at my house, there was just a little over an inch of water that fell within 3 hours. So pretty good storm came through, and it's still falling today. So looks good to us.
As mentioned during public comment, last Friday I had the opportunity to go up to the Oregon House area and view some of the small agricultural businesses that are happening there, some vineyards and Apollo olive oil. And it was a great trip, and it reiterated the importance of water for foothill agriculture. And I certainly appreciate Yuba Water Agency continuing to do all we can to partner with local providers to make sure that the Oregon House area has irrigation water. So thank you. And with that, We will adjourn the meeting. A reminder, we do have a special meeting at 10:30 over at Yuba Water Agency office. So thank you.
Record.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.